Today, we are going to improve our spoken English with the Hollywood movie named The Fault in Our Stars, 2014. If you find this class helpful, please support our channel. Hazel Grace Lancaster knew she was living on borrowed time. She was 16, but cancer had made her feel much older. Her body was weak, her lungs failed her daily, and she carried an oxygen tank wherever she went. She didn't see the point in making new friends or experiencing new things because, sooner or later, she would be gone. Her mother, Franny, believed Hazel was depressed and insisted she attend a support group for young people with cancer. Hazel didn't argue much. She knew her mother needed hope, even if she didn't feel it herself. One Wednesday afternoon, Hazel dragged herself to the church basement where the support group was held. She expected another boring session, listening to the same stories of pain and suffering. But as she entered, she noticed someone new, a boy with short brown hair, a mischievous grin, and piercing blue eyes. He wasn't just looking at her. He was staring like she was the most fascinating thing in the world. His name was Augustus Waters. Augustus was different from anyone Hazel had met. He had osteosarcoma, a type of bone cancer, but he wasn't sick at the moment. He had lost one of his legs to the disease and now walked with a prosthetic, but he didn't seem to care. He was full of life, making jokes, speaking with confidence, and saying things that made Hazel think. He wasn't afraid of death. He was afraid of being forgotten. After the meeting, Augustus walked straight up to Hazel and told her, "You are just so busy being you that you have no idea how utterly unprecedented you are." Hazel was caught off guard. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. He then asked if she wanted to watch V for Vendetta at his house. Hazel hesitated, but there was something about him that made her say yes. At his house, they sat close together and talked more than they watched the movie. Augustus told her about his best friend Isaac, who was about to lose his remaining eye to cancer and would soon be blind. He showed her his old basketball trophies, though he admitted he never truly loved playing the sport. Hazel shared her love for reading, especially her favorite book, An Imperial Affliction. It was the only book that truly understood what it was like to be dying. The novel ended abruptly, with no answers, which drove Hazel crazy. She had always wanted to know what happened to the characters. Augustus promised to read the book, and over the next few weeks their friendship grew deeper. They texted at all hours, sent each other funny quotes, and spent more and more time together. One night, Augustus called Hazel, his voice excited. He had finished An Imperial Affliction and was just as frustrated by its ending. Determined to get answers, he emailed the author, Peter Van Houten. To their surprise, Van Houten's assistant replied, saying that if they ever came to Amsterdam, they could meet him. Hazel was thrilled but also sad. Her parents didn't have the money to take her to Amsterdam. But then Augustus revealed something unbelievable. He had a wish to use from the Genie Foundation, a charity that granted wishes to sick children. Most kids wished for Disneyland or a trip to meet a celebrity, but Augustus had saved his. And now he wanted to use it for her. At first, Hazel's doctors were hesitant. She had been hospitalized recently, and her lungs were fragile. But after some discussion, they finally agreed. Hazel, Augustus, and her mother boarded a plane to Amsterdam, their excitement mixed with nervousness. Amsterdam was like a dream. The canals reflected the golden sunlight, the streets were full of bicycles, and everything felt alive. Their first night, Augustus took Hazel to a beautiful restaurant by the water, paid for by the Genie Foundation. The food was exquisite, the candles flickered between them, and the atmosphere was magical. It was there, over champagne and a meal they couldn't even pronounce, that Augustus told Hazel he was in love with her. Hazel's heart raced. She loved him too, but fear held her back. She saw herself as a grenade, someone who would explode and leave behind pain and destruction. She didn't want to hurt Augustus when she was gone. But Augustus refused to let fear dictate love. He told her, You don't get to choose if you get hurt in this world, but you do have some say in who hurts you. I like my choices." The next day they went to meet Van Houten, full of hope. But the meeting was a disaster. Van Houten was not the wise, kind author they had imagined. He was drunk, bitter, and rude. He refused to answer their questions and mocked their pain. Hazel felt betrayed. The book that had given her comfort now felt tainted by its cruel creator. As they stormed out, Van Houten's assistant, Leadawai, apologized. She had arranged the meeting without his approval. Wanting to make up for it, she took them to the Anne Frank house. Hazel struggled to climb the steep stairs, her lungs burning with each step. But she pushed through. At the top, breathless but victorious, Hazel and Augustus kissed for the first time. The tourists around them clapped, and for a moment, the world felt perfect. That night, in their hotel room, they made love for the first time. It was tender, emotional, and full of love. In that moment, there were no hospitals, no cancer, no fear. Just the two of them, together. The next day, Augustus dropped a bombshell. His cancer was back. It had spread everywhere, and there was nothing more the doctors could do. Hazel felt like the world had flipped upside down. She had always thought she would be the one to leave him, but now she was the one who had to watch him fade away. Back home, Augustus got weaker each day. The once energetic, confident boy was now fragile, in constant pain. He was afraid, not of dying, but of being forgotten. Hazel stayed by his side, reading to him, talking to him, loving him. She tried to be strong, but every night she cried into her pillow. One evening, Augustus asked Hazel and Isaac to meet him at the church basement where they first met. He wanted a pre-funeral. He wanted to hear what they would say about him while he was still alive. Isaac spoke first, making everyone laugh and cry with his heartfelt words. Then Hazel stood up, her voice shaking. She told Augustus he was the love of her life, that he had given her a forever within the numbered days they had. A few days later, Augustus died. Hazel couldn't breathe. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling like a part of her had been ripped away. The funeral was heartbreaking. Van Houten showed up, but Hazel wanted nothing to do with him. Later, she found out that Augustus had written something for her before he died. A letter to Van Houten, asking him to write a eulogy for Hazel. In it, Augustus said that he was okay with being forgotten by the world, as long as Hazel remembered him. He wrote about how much he loved her, how grateful he was to have met her, and how she was the best thing that had ever happened to him. As Hazel read his words, tears streamed down her face. She lay on the grass, looking up at the sky, whispering softly, "Okay," because that was their word, their way of saying forever. And in that moment, even in her pain, she knew that love was worth it, even if it ended in heartbreak.